Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have heard Zarsenic by Czarface yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt.
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. John McClain, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I am joined for a chat by Why Not Radio's Joey O. We get into it deep about Why Not, Y100, Y100 Rocks, Internet Radio, The Simpsons, so much more. It is a big episode and such an enjoyable conversation, and I want to get right into it. But before I do, some quick notes. First, the date has been set. Mark your calendars. Saturday, September 23rd at 8 p.m. I will be hosting the 4th annual 'Twas the Jawn Before Christmas. That's right. It's that time of year for my yearly ukulele sing-along live stream. Historically, we stream that on the Facebook page, facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn if you're not following it yet. But this year, I'm going to try and stream to multiple platforms, so keep an eye out on the socials for more on that. Also, for the first time this year, I am bringing in some surprise guests. How exciting is that? So yeah, December 23rd, 8 p.m., join me. 'Twas the Jawn Before Christmas 4. You know, and if you haven't done so already, hit up the webpage, www.yothat'smyjawn.com, for all of the links to the socials, the webpage, the mailing list, all of it. You can also find links to guest appearances I have done on other shows. You know, I've been lucky enough to guest on a bunch of shows recently, and the best way to find all of those appearances is to hit up the website, www.yothat'smyjawn.com. And the final piece of business to touch upon, the last thing here, and also on the topic of guesting on other people's shows, next Tuesday, December 12th, I will be on the Your Next Favorite Band live stream /podcast alongside my pal Dan Drago of the 25 O'Clock podcast to discuss our picks for 88.5's Greatest Songs by Women Countdown that starts tomorrow. Phil and David host a great show that if you're not already following, you should definitely subscribe to. And I am super excited to join them for that. So you can catch that live on their YouTube channel next Tuesday night. Okay, quick ad break, then my conversation with Joey O. Yo, That's My Jawn is brought to you by Liquid IV. Guys, it is festival season. And you know me, I love a festival. And the secret to enjoying a festival is to stay hydrated. Liquid IV has you covered while you prep before, power through to the headliner, and recover after the weekend. Liquid IV hydrates 2 times faster than water alone with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. Man, I love Liquid IV. It comes in a convenient packaging, and it's tasty. When you see me at the Exponential Music Festival this fall, you know that I will have Liquid IV on me. And it comes in 12 delicious, refreshing flavors to keep your hydration routine exciting. All right, strawberry used to be my favorite, but they have this new one. It's strawberry lemonade, and it is a banger. 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone. It's non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. Liquid IV believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. So Liquid IV partners with leading organizations for innovative solutions to help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50-plus countries around the world. Okay, and you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the promo code YTMJ at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using the promo code YTMJ at liquidiv.com. Do it, and let's get our fests on.
My guest today got his start in Philly radio interning for the legendary Philly station Y100. From intern to board op to fill-in host and so much more, he has been a pivotal member of the Y100 Why Not ecosystem. As a host and as program director of Why Not Radio, he continues day in and day out to keep the spirit of Y100 alive in the Philly area and beyond. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Joey O.
Recording through Zoom is just so easy.
Oh my God, it's been a godsend. Like the show wouldn't exist without it.
Yeah, we've done, so many interviews remotely over the last 3.5 years that we never, ever, ever would have done.
Yeah. Totally. Like, I mean, like the fact that like early on, I want to say like season 2, my seasons are just kind of vibes. They're not really, they don't really follow any logic. But somewhere around season 2, I reached out to Pearl Charles and she was out in California. And like it's another one of those interviews that never would have happened if not for Zoom, because it's not like I'd be like, hey, can you fly out and come into my basement and come chat with me? Like
we used to use Skype used to charge you like years ago. We did a handful of, we wouldn't do like remote interviews from, the technology that we have because Skype charged you from like one end or the other. So we did like maybe 4 or 5 ever, but yeah.
Yeah. It's a new world, man. It's a new world. And it's also awesome that everyone knows how to use it now. Like, so you don't have to like try to explain to people, like, if you can just turn this on, I'll take it the rest of the way,
Yeah. The only thing is not having like the professional version of it sometimes is a pain. Like, I'm guessing you do, but like, we don't. So like I'll be like we've done more than one interview. It was like, okay, they're gonna kick you off in 5 minutes. We're not done talking. Is it cool if you hang on some more? And I had one this year. I interviewed Liz Stokes from the Baths, who was super nice.
Kidding.
But one, she wasn't doing it video; she was doing it on her phone, and she accidentally hung up with like her face to her phone on me like more than once, and like came back on. So it was kind of like a very disjointed, awkward interview. She was super nice, but it was still like, I'm backstage and oops, my face touched Zoom on my phone. So I disappeared again.
That's awesome. Expert in the Dying Field is like one of my favorite albums of the past 10 years. So like totally jealous that you got to talk to her.
She was super nice. They did a session when they only had an EP out. They came and did a session for us.
Oh, that's so
way
cool.
back. And she remembered that because she remembered Josh's cats, but that's nice.
Super cool. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Joey O of Why Not Radio. Joey, thank you for joining me on Yo, That's My Jawn.
Hey, Nate, thanks for having me.
I always like to tell people in the audience, like any kind of connection I have with the guest. And for us, we first started talking because of an Weird Al interview that you did during a XPN takeover. And I just went and looked up, and it was literally November of last year. So happy anniversary, pal.
Yeah, I thought I connected with you through like Twitter and John Batiste, but it would have been that. You did find the Weird Al interview, which I listened to back because I have it somewhere. I have it burned on a CD. But yeah, and that was a trip. And unfortunately, we talked about John Crickfaluzzi and R. Kelly in that interview. So great.
Yeah, a lot of third rails that, but time changes things, Yeah. But I'm so glad that we get to chat. I'm really excited to kind of sit down and have this conversation. I always start these things off in the Wayback Machine. So tell me a little bit about yourself as a kid. Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chester County. I'm from the Philly suburbs, lived in Philly area adjacent my whole life. So always been, around here.
No, it's awesome. What what kind of music was playing around the house when you were little? What do you remember, like your first musical memories?
Oh man, like Disney, like booking records, vinyl stuff, a lot of Christmas music. I have my copy. I don't have a turntable, but my vinyl is in the closet over there and has my copy of the greatest Christmas album, John Denver and the Muppets: A Christmas Together, which I know I listened to endlessly, and the Chipmunks, and I know my parents' vinyl, like they had a lot of Jim Croce because Delco, and and the Beatles, of course. But I wasn't like a super huge music listener fan myself until I was a teenager. So
yeah. Yeah. What can you remember what turned you on when you were a teen? Like what was the thing that grabbed you? What was the first thing you latched onto?
Well, we just mentioned him, but Weird Al is a gateway to a lot of other bands that he was a fan of. And plus, I mean, my brother's 3 years younger than me, but he was, all on board for, the grunge train, and he was more in tune with, listening to Nirvana and Pearl Jam and the Breeders and all of that. And so somewhere in between all that, between like borrowing his copy of REM's Monster, the scary one, on cassette, and Weird Al stuff, and just the Animaniacs soundtrack, I'll say.
Yes, nice. Yeah, I that's how I learned all of my state capitals.
Oh, indeed, I know. So between all of that would be like what I was listening to in high school, and then eventually getting into more and more of listening to alternative radio and Y100, and we were listening to Y100. I mean, I remember, when you heard Longview on the radio, constantly you just change channel. Oh, it's Longview again, or Closer, or man, the one song I really associate with hearing a lot back then was the 10,000 Maniacs cover of Because of the Night.
Oh my God, yeah, that was everywhere.
Yeah. Well, so that's some of the earliest I remember listening to when I was listening to what I wanted to hear on the radio.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Longview because I don't know if I've told this on here or not, but I saw Green Day in '92, right when, so it was like Longview came out, we got tickets. It was a small little club in Allentown, and then by the time the show hit, Basket Case had came out, and they were like enormous. So like they came out, and the first 3 songs they played were Longview, When I Come Around, and Basket Case. And then they were like, oh no, we played all of the songs you guys came to see. What are we going to do now? And then they went into their regular set, and I just always thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. But I just recently found on YouTube, which is like the greatest treasure trove ever, a video clip from that show. And it like, I'll share it in the show notes or something, but like, it's crazy that exists, that like, cause that means that somebody was there with like a VHS camera to like, copy just, and it's like just 2,000 light years away. It's just one song and it's not even the whole show. But yeah, I like that time period of music, especially in this area, was just so strong. So I can completely understand how you would get hooked.
I have a VHS bootleg of Radiohead played the Electric Factory on my birthday on the OK Computer tour. I have a VHS bootleg of it. Somebody was in the balcony at the Electric Factory with a camcorder in '97 and shot that whole show.
That's incredible. It reminds me of, I don't know how familiar you are with the old show What's Happening, but there's the episode
Rerun of the Doobie Brothers.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah. And that's probably that guy had like a trench coat and a video camera and was just like, let's just get it. It's awesome. It's so awesome. So how did you go from, not really being into it, being into music, to working at Y100? Like, did you go to college for radio, or?
I have like an overall communication studies degree. I was at part of our college radio station all 4 years, and I was, a super fan, loyal listener to Y100. I knew my friend Casey worked there. Casey girl, not Casey boy. But yeah, Casey worked there. I knew her. And I applied for an internship my senior year, and I got that. And I was an intern on the old Street Squad. And man, we were just, I don't know, like radio stations don't have kind of budgets or internships today, but we were just everywhere. And that's one of the reasons that Y100, stuck with people, because we were just omnipresent. We were at every bar, every mall, all sorts of oddball. Like, I preferred doing more of the fun, events than just going to like a bar in South Jersey on a Friday night. I went to like the Montgomeryville Mall for 2 hours, or all the movie premieres, or one time my friend Josh Landau, who I'll talk about a million times during this interview because he runs Why Not Radio, but Josh and I did an appearance where the JC Penney so the Granite Run Mall was next to where Y100 was located in media. And we were at the JC Penney on like a Saturday for 2 hours, like just in like the pants department with a table with the Y100 banners on it, just hanging out, trying to give people, we couldn't give bumper stickers, and we couldn't give stickers in a lot of places because they were afraid they're going to slap them on somewhere they shouldn't. But
sure,
like, just promoting the station, standing in the JCPenney at the Granite Run Mall on a Saturday morning at 11. Why? Because JCPenney paid us to be there. So
yeah,
or paid the station to be there. So
that's hilarious. It's also really hilarious that you specifically shouted out the Montgomeryville Mall because I worked there for 8 years. So
oh no way.
Yeah. I worked in the Sam Goody because of course I did. But yeah, so a lot of time spent in that mall. But no, like the street team in that station and just the kind of loyalty of the listenership, and then also the station to the listenership. It was like a mutually beneficial situation there. And I don't know that radio stations outside of like maybe XPN kind of leans towards it a little with the membership and stuff like that. But I don't know that I've ever witnessed a radio station have a relationship with its listenership like Y100 did. It was just something truly unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of like, like I said, I was in the promotions department, and then, we were all friends. And like I was saying to you right before we started recording, I went to my friend Liz's husband's birthday party last weekend, and Liz and I have known each other since she worked there. She was in the street squad and worked in the promotions department, and with Josh and our friend Kristen, who was one of the head. She ran all the internships for years. She hired me as an intern. She was at that party. A couple other friends. We've all known each other since '99. They've known each other. They were there in '98 before me, and we're all still friends today. And it's
incredible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. So, you mentioned working for the college radio station. What college did you go to?
I went to Widener.
Okay. Okay.
WDNR.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Always remember your call letters. Did you have a show when you were working there, or?
Yeah. I was music director. I was on the air every week. We were, a lot of good memories from pretty small, college radio station. Loved it. College radios had kind of gone away in a lot of schools, a lot of campuses. DNR isn't there anymore. That's what, again, I'll keep coming back to Why Not Radio. We kind of treat it like a college radio station that's run by people who are, professionals.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was an intern on Street Squad and worked my way up, and eventually started board opping there, which board operator. Basically, when we had live broadcasts, there were some things that were like pre-recorded, and I was the guy back at the station pushing all the buttons. Like that was the other thing. Like we're talking about Y100 being the community. We had just so many live broadcasts back then. Like we had ones that were every week, like every Friday, Matt was out, and there was the Maui broadcast on Saturday nights, and every concert we were at, like every big concert, we were broadcasting from it in the lobby. I was there when the Sixers, the Allen Iverson era Sixers went to the playoffs, and we were broadcasting from every home game, like in the parking lot. We did live broadcasts all the time in the early aughts. That's wild.
And you definitely don't see that much anymore.
No, not at all, for numerous reasons. But so we were everywhere. So that was my job. I was part-time job there. I had other jobs at the time, but I was one of the like main board ops for a couple of years, eventually worked my way up to being on air part-time. I gave Jim McGuinn my demo, and he put me on the air like a Sunday, like 4 to 6 a.m. as a test, and just started giving me more and more random fill-in shifts. And I was just the fill-in guy on the weekends. And every weekend I did every shift at some point, before the Maui broadcast. After it, you'd board up like the second half of the Saturday night broadcast, and then be on the air from like 2 to 6. Then there was like some syndicated shows on Sunday mornings. And I did every fill-in shift the whole time there. Holidays, you name it. Myself and Josh, a couple other people, and
that's incredible. Can you remember your first time on the air on Y100? Like, what was that thrill like?
Remember, I can picture it. I think I have all the logs. I have a binder where I kept like my copy of all the logs. I'm a terrible pack rat. I think I played like Sum 41 in my first break.
It's awesome. That's so cool. You should put that playlist back together and do it on Why Not, as like a throwback to the first time the
yeah. I don't want to play Tantric on my
I forgot that band even existed until you just said that. That's really funny. So when you're working there and all, and you mentioned Jim McGuinn, who I have to give a shout out for, in the past week or so has written two really incredible articles on WXPN or on xpn.org. One reviewing the U2 show that he saw in Vegas, and the other commenting on Spotify's changing of monetization for stream requirements for artists. And one of the things that is kind of come out of that is just the reminder of how important Jim is to Philadelphia music radio. What was it like working with him in those early days?
Jim's my radio mentor. He's a great writer too. Every time he writes something very passionately. I always enjoy Jim's writing. To reference those two essays he wrote. He was our leader, and I'll just dig right into the next part of it, because that's when I got to know Jim better. So here's the Y100. I don't know how much your listenership's outside of Philadelphia, but the Y100 etc. story goes that we are owned by Radio One, who was a big national company, and Preston and Steve's contract was up, and they were going to MMR. And Radio One decided that they didn't really want Y100 without Preston and Steve. I think that's kind of how it shook out, more or less, different versions of the story. But basically, they decided they were going to flip formats, take Y100 off the air. I was actually on the air the night before we went off the air. I knew something was up. I didn't know that's exactly what was going to happen that quickly. But I was filling in for Electra, who was nights at the time. She's one of my closest friends. We text all the time still. And she's awesome. So I was on that night, and then the next day we went off the air, and they announced it was the last day for the station. And what I didn't know, Jim had started an internet radio station and a website that was called y100rocks.com. And he's told this story before. And he got some little promos on the air that were running during the day that just said y100rocks.com to get listeners to go look at that website. And until they got taken off, because the corporate owners didn't want that happening. Obviously, and they kind of went jockless by the afternoon by Brett's show. So y100rocks.com basically was just a loop, a stream of just alternative music that Jim had put together. And the idea was, eventually we started doing some broadcasts from his house, from his spare room in his house. And it was just a wild ride. The idea was basically hoping that some other company would flip to alternative in Philly and hire whoever wanted to go there. They'd hire Jim to be the program director, and Jim would hire, whoever didn't already have a job yet, and sort of get the band back together right away. That didn't happen, but we had this crazy year and a half. It was only a year and a half, but we had a rally on the steps of the art museum after Y100 went off the air. And we just started doing this station where we had different DJs, and we had a lot of people from the station coming. We had bands stop by, Hot Hot Heat hung out at Jim's house, and so did Brendan Benson. And eventually we got a little storefront on Passyunk that we were making money. We had a few advertisers and enough to just rent this little one room storefront in Philly, and started running the station out of there. And we brought in some people, and Jim opened it up to some music fans. That's where I met John Batiste. John was one of our first volunteers that we opened it up a little bit more. And Jim was teaching a music class at Drexel at the time, and two or three of his students came and DJ'd. And one of them I'm still friends with to this day. She was one of our volunteer DJs, and we text almost every day too. And just opened it up to more people. Some old Y100 interns came aboard, and then we found a slightly bigger studio office space down the block, and we were broadcasting out of there for a while. We had so many bands that came by and hung out, or that we started relationships with back then, We Are Scientists and Dick Valentine from Electric Six, and just artists we interviewed because they came by our weird little internet radio station in 2005 and 2006, and we still know some of these artists to this day.
That's absolutely wild.
Yeah,
let me take you back real quick. In that initial kind of, the end of Y100 and kind of the start of Y100 Rocks, kind of walk me through like your decision to kind of follow Jim. Was there any hesitation or any thoughts of like, maybe I should go, call one of the other stations or anything like that? Or were you all in like right out the gate?
I mean, I was kind of all in mainly because, it was my part-time job. I had a full-time job. That was just,
sure.
My side gig, but I was going to follow them. Like some people, definitely, like other people got jobs. Other people, went other places. But I never really wanted to be and like put all my chips on radio as a full-time career. I wasn't going to do that. So, it was such a wild ride. And it was like, yeah, sure. Why not, actually?
Yeah.
But it was what we were doing, and everybody was on board pretty much. And, other people found jobs pretty quickly. Matt Cord, found a job right away. Almost all, all the full-time air staff went somewhere pretty quickly. But
it's like it's really incredible because I think that it is kind of what we were just speaking about with Jim, is just like the kind of the drive and the power to like not give up and to kind of continue on the spirit and the nature of a station like that is kind of the glue to what made that station special. Like that it wouldn't happen with I can't think of any other station that like it would shut down and that would go on,
Yeah, and it was the people who were there. We weren't, there weren't people doing like fake cheesy, DJ personas and voices. Like everyone was pretty much more or less themselves. Like, Josh, myself, and John Vaughn, who was one of our overnight DJs. We were just, a bunch of nerds making Transformers references on the air. And if people got them, if people cared about our 90s Saturday Night Live references, that's great, because that's who we are.
Sure, of course. So, from to being a fill-in on Y100 and then making the move to Y100 Rocks, when do you feel like you started to kind of settle into your broadcast voice, essentially? Like when did you start to really feel comfortable, like, kind of a master of your own field, as opposed to like a fill-in or like,
Well, the thing that actually I did at Y100 that meant the most to me, that I really felt like thrilled about, was that Dan Fine picked me to be his fill-in for the actual Why Not, the Why Not new music special show on Sunday nights, which I loved. And Dan knows he's a huge influence on my music taste. Like a couple years in a row, we'll list like our favorite like albums of the year. I'm like, oh, gee, I wonder why we have so much overlap, Dan, because I listened to you doing Why Not in the 90s. So, Dan asked me to fill in for him. I think it was on his birthday, actually. So he didn't want to do Why Not that Sunday and asked me to fill in for him. And I loved it. And then like over the last year and change of the station, I was the official fill-in if Dan had something going on. I think sometimes it was like, oh, the Eagles have a 4:00 game this Sunday. Joey, can you do Why Not?
It's awesome.
So that was the thing that really like made me feel bad. That was the thing I'm most proud of getting to do at Y100.
It's so cool. That is absolutely cool. So Y100 Rocks is up and running, and you have the location and you're kind of operating out of there. How does the collaboration with WXPN come about, where you guys kind of take over their HD2 station, right? Like completely.
That was all, Bruce Warren and Jim and Roger LeMay. That was all, their level discussions. And it was basically XPN wanted to, bring in a younger listenership, especially like this was 06, 07, 06. And, they were still known for being the XPN of the 90s and the singer-songwriters and the Jonathan Brooks and the boomers and all, and, classic rock, and want to get a younger listenership. And we were still like, we weren't as hit. We still had one foot in like Y100 stuff. So even like when our first year on XPN or so, we were still playing, a lot of My Chemical Romance and AFI and bands we don't play now, and that we gradually phased out. But also Radio 104.5 hadn't launched yet either. Sure. So there was no one in Philly playing that. And we were playing, all the big Chili Peppers hits. That was like Stadium Arcadium was out around then. So that was the idea. It was basically they wanted to like bring in a younger listenership. And they came up with this partnership idea, which we eventually came up with the name Y Rock on XPN, where we were the HD2 channel. We were 24/7 online as well. And then we were on XPN proper Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights. And that was originally Jim. Jim was the host those nights. And the staff on the website was pretty much all the people who had been doing the station before. I mean, they were still volunteers. The only people that Jim and Josh were full-time, and I was hired part-time. And everyone else was still just doing it as a volunteer, pretty much. But it was a lot of the same people who were on the other version of the station.
Yeah.
And stuck with us, only in a professional. And then we had like a professional setting, and we were in XPN, and we had a real professional setup. So we did that. And then I'm trying to remember the timeline of this. I think that might have been when like David Dye stepped back to just doing Funky Friday, and Jim took over Afternoon Drive Monday through Thursday. And then Josh and I started alternating actual Y Rock on XPN on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights. So we did that for a while. And then Jim left for The Current. And Y Rock was pretty much Josh's baby, Josh and my baby, but mostly Josh's thing for the last part of when we were there. And we had like they gave us a lot of creative freedom. Like really, it's ridiculous to look back and realize like they were really, Bruce and everyone was just hands off. And like we had been there for a while. We weren't like the exciting new toy anymore, kind of.
Yeah.
And like the last year or so, it was like we just had like artists in that we liked. We had and we did sessions and interviews that were on the air. The one I keep thinking of is one of the artists we befriended over the years was Eddie Argos, the singer from Art Brut. You know Art Brut?
Yeah, sure.
And he had a side project, a very, very niche side project with his then girlfriend called Everybody Was in the French Resistance Now, where all their songs were responses to other pop songs. Like they wrote like a response to Billie Jean called Billy's Jeans, as in like jeans with a G. So it was very niche. And they came in and did an interview and like a live session for us. And we heard that all on XPN one night. And it was like, that was a pretty like obscure band to put on, you know, the FM station back then.
Definitely. So when Jim left for The Current, what was kind of like the pulse with like especially between like you and Josh, because you know you guys kind of the three of you were kind of the brain trust almost carrying it over, and you know here's one of the leads, if not you know the primary lead, leaving. Like, was there any concern about continuing on, or did you like were you guys kind of together so well at that point that it was just, you know, let's just shift some things and now it's everybody's got new responsibilities, but it's kind of business as usual?
It was kind of the latter. I mean, because Jim was had his hand in so many other things, and his like primary job was being on the air. I think at the time, I'm trying to remember, this was like 08, 09, I want to say. But yeah, I mean, The Current was an opportunity. You know, he wanted, you know, be in programming more than just being like he was a programmer more than he was, you know, an on-air jock throughout his career. So it made sense that he wanted to, you know, have a programming option or opportunity, I should say. And we had been on the air for it. And it was just like the two of us were the main thrust of what was going on.
Yeah.
At that point.
So, what kind of, I don't know that I know, and nor did have I ever really investigated too closely, but what happened that you know, the separation from the, HD station with XPN and kind of that partnership, what, just a change in direction on their part, or?
Well, I mean, I can say this because it was out, you know, in the open. It was budget cutbacks at XPN. Like, honestly, okay. Like that's not a secret. That was reported, you know, at the time. It was, you know, coming off of the 08, 09 recession, I think kind of caught up with XPN at that point, and they'd never had like cutbacks ever in that, like at that station, but they laid off a handful of people, and that's why they decided to end Y Rock.
Gotcha. How quickly was there a any kind of window between Y Rock and then starting Why Not on Why Not radio.net, or?
Well, it kind of happened well, not the same way that everything happened with Y100 Rocks. Basically, that was the idea. It was like, okay, well, we're losing this. Let's just start again and start an internet station and do kind of what Jim did, a few years earlier. And that was kind of what we did pretty much. We started Why Not Radio. And some people stayed at XPN, like Vitesse, because I think that was right when he got hired, like as a full-time job there. So,
yeah.
And some people that were, involved in both sides of things that were part of the Y-Rock crew, but also doing other stuff. Like Eric Schumann, obviously stayed at XPN. But he was in our group, and some people came with us and some people just didn't, carry on either. And that's just how it shook out.
Yeah. Well, re-entering the internet radio space, was anything different? Had anything kind of changed since the early Y100 Rocks? Or
yeah, I mean, we were a lot more stable about. We knew what we were doing. We knew the software we were using. We knew we were on Live 365 back then, but it was a lot more like jury rigged at times, and like the software wasn't as reliable. The back end was a lot more taken care of, I feel like, at that point. A few years, not that long into Why Not Radio, we partnered with a company called iRadio Philly from around here, who were an internet radio company. Part of a Kelly Music was the ownership originally, who owns like the Kelly Music Center in Havertown, I believe, among other things. So they partnered with us and kind of did all the back end for us for like 7-8 years. And just like a year or so ago, they decided to close up shop, and we went back to Live 365. So we're broadcasting through them, and they've been like the main company that does internet radio stations for like 20 years, maybe. Like they're pioneers in it. And by partnering with them, we have our own dedicated app now, which is really cool to just have a Why Not Radio app on your phone, because we hadn't had that before.
That's super cool.
So so I mean, it was just like we started over. I mean, it's also like we joked and played coy about that we're broadcasting from Josh's apartment. Pretty much the station was there, like how it was Jim's house all those years earlier. So we've always called anywhere we've called it the bunker, like jokingly, like to be like wink wink about where we're actually located at.
Yeah. So there is a central location then? It's not like a hybrid kind of approach, or?
Well, now it is because of pandemic times. So actually, fortunately, I just bought a nice new microphone like 3 months before 3.5 months, whatever, before the pandemic started, like right around the beginning of the year, to do more stuff from home, to pre-record some things from home. So a lot of people can do this. I do everything from home because I live like 50 minutes away. It's not... Josh moved a few years ago too, but it's still may or may not be the same place where he sleeps and eats breakfast and stuff.
Sure.
But no, I do everything from home. Some of our DJs do. And we have some people that are like spread out around the country now. Like some of our DJs, we have so many specialty shows. I'll get into that in a minute, but like our DJ Matt, who was a Y100 intern right before we went on, like, I think his internship lasted like 6 weeks and then we went off the air, but he became one of our DJs and he's still with us. He hosts our UK show, Brit Spotting, and he moved to Wisconsin like 5-6 years ago, maybe. And he does his show from there, and he broadcasts and he records everything from there. We have some DJs that are in California now. We have one guy in California. We have somebody in Portland, Oregon, Jersey. So we have the technology to do it. Not everyone has to like drive into Philly anymore to do their shows.
That's incredible. If you guys ever want a guy from Ambler, I know someone. But no. So let's, tell kind of the listeners just a bit about Why Not, and like kind of some of the shows that kind of operate and function, because like I feel like it's I don't want to say it's like a secret, but like it's like a in the know kind of thing. Like it's like I can tell if someone's cool if they're like if they know about Why Not or not, or at least that's how I feel. I don't know, maybe I'm just like a goofy hipster like that or something, but
I mean, so we started over as Why Not Radio. We're listener supported. We've had advertisers over the year. We welcome advertisers. We've had some on and off, but most of it is from listener support. From donations, and we have enough people that donate to get us by every month. We always say we need like about $1,000 more or less a month to keep the station running. That's what it costs because we have to pay streaming royalty fees, we have to pay Live 365, we have to pay Comcast, email hosting, etc. And it's the same sort of setup. We have a whole bunch of volunteer DJs, like I was just saying. We have people on basically 9 a.m. till late at night every day. We've sort of, like I've alluded to, we've sort of evolved what our sound is like over the years as like alternative. We call it modern, alternative, indie, whatever, to like mock the label of it, because over the years at XPN, like during the XPN times, we moved further and further away from like what's on mainstream alternative. We'll hear on, Radio 104.5, all 104.5 now. And, the iHeartRadio, Odyssey, alternative stations of the world. So, I mean, we play a lot of Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age and, Nine Inch Nails, a lot of the 90s, 2000s alternative bands, everything Jack White does. But we try and mix up like, okay, come for the Death Cabs and Tegan and Sarah and Metric and a lot of these bigger bands that we play, Garbage. But we're also going to introduce you to newer artists like Lauren Hibbard and Blonde Shell and a lot of artists that we've been champions of. They're sort of like they're big artists to us that we play a ton that are kind of, mid-level indie artists. Alex Leahy and Screaming Females and Speedy Ortiz are friends of ours. And we try and mix all that together and try and get like come for these, you're going to hear all the bands, we treat ourselves as we're like the lineage of going back to Y100 and WDRE. So we do like Modern Rock Madness, like we did back in the day, every single spring. And we do a year-end countdown, which when this airs, our year-end poll should be open. I'll plug that again later. But this year it'll be, because we made a Faustian bargain with ourselves. Every year we add one more song to the countdown. So this year it's the top 223 of 2023.
That's awesome.
So it gets longer every year and more unwieldy. But we try and just, spotlight new music and local music. I mean, we have listeners everywhere. We have listeners in Toronto, and we hear from other people in other countries sometimes, but we're also very Philly centric. We play a ton of local artists, and we're blessed that the Philly scene, like the entire time we've been running since like the mid-aughts is when the Philly scene took off. That's when Dr. Dog blew up. And, I could just rattle off, War on Drugs and Kurt Vile and Gladdy and just keep going. Puppy Yanks was a really fun band that we befriended this year, and they did a session for us a couple months ago. And
yeah. Here's a great question for you, because you are knee deep in it, and one of my favorite things about this show is being able to bring bands that people may not have heard of. You were kind of talking about like mid-level indie artists and stuff like that, and
that wasn't an insult to any of them either.
No,
I was just trying to figure out a way to describe them.
Yeah, but like it always makes me laugh, because like I get super excited about some of the guests that I have on the show, and then like I'll try to explain it to like a normal radio listener or whatnot. I'm like, you don't understand. Like Nicole Atkins came on my show, and they're like, I've like, who are you talking about? And I'm like, I know you don't know, but just know that in my world it's enormous. Stuff like that. But what I want to ask is, you mentioned Philly music, and the Philly music scene to me is just like unmatched right now. Like it's really incredible. Who's somebody either right now or in the past 10 to 15 years that you're surprised is not way bigger than they are currently?
I wish Kaitana had gotten more love. They were so good. Actually, their drummer Kelly was one of our volunteer DJs back at XPN for a little while.
Oh, no way.
So we go way back with them. But Augusta is such a great songwriter. I love her voice. And Allegra, oh my gosh, such an incredible bass player. Have you ever heard their New Order cover? I think they did Age of Consent. It's one of my favorite covers ever.
Oh God, I got to check that out as soon as this is over. I actually just met Augusta for the first time at Inside Hustle this year, and fingers crossed. I told her to come on the show, but yeah, like but and that's not to like kind of cast any stones at Gladdy either, which is also phenomenal. Yeah. But totally, completely agree with that. Perfect choice. So on Why Not Radio, you got the Nooner on Tuesdays. Tell everybody a little bit about your show at noon.
Well, the Nooner is the nickname we've used for the lunchtime show going back to Y100. Brett Hamilton did the nooner. And at Why Not, we sort of themed them a little more. So we have Mondays is the 90s, Fridays is the 80s, and mine is the aughts. So Tuesdays is the aughts nooner. So it's all from 2000 to 2009. So it starts with like the stuff we were playing at Y100 and then goes up to 2009. So it's a good chunk of time. I can remember exactly what came out when, like, because we've been doing Why Not Radio for 13 years now. So that's a little bit more of a blur than being like, okay, this was like this time and this was, this place. But yeah, and I'll do all the 20th anniversary albums. I'll look all those up. So, going back and it's like, oh yeah, that was definitely like, oh man, 2001. I guess I got to talk about, U2, All That You Can't Leave Behind, and 9/11, and the albums that came out on 9/11, which was Ben Folds and They Might Be Giants put out albums on 9/11. I bought them at Tower Records on 9/10.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Next year it'll be American Idiot and all of the Bush anti-Bush albums, like Jimmy Eat World's Futures.
It's crazy that it's been 20 years.
Those are all going to turn 20.
That's absolutely wild. So like, it's also really interesting that like, you're kind of playing the music, from around the time, a little after when, you started in radio, but it's kind of like going back home, isn't it? Like,
Oh, something else I wanted to mention. I was talking about local music and local artists. Somebody who's in the Why Not family is Rodney Anonymous of the Dead Milkmen. He has his own show on Why Not. I wanted to mention that too.
Oh, super cool.
We did so back at XPN, when the Milkmen started working together again and playing live again, Vitesse booked them. Our friend Jake was the local show host, and Jawn got the Milkmen to do a session for us as like a surprise I think it was for like the 100th session or something. And then a few years later, they put out their first new album since they got back together, and Josh got them to do an acoustic session for us at a studio. And Josh was just like blown away by Rodney Anonymous. Like I want to give this guy his own radio show. I don't care what the heck he does. He can talk about Doctor Who for 2 hours off the top of his head. I don't care. So we gave Rodney his own show, and he plays industrial goth dark wave music the first Friday of every month for a decade now.
Wow.
And it's totally, I don't know how much of his listenership crosses over with the rest of the day or the rest of the station, but it's just one more element of it. And he's got his audience, and people listen to him and listen to his show, and it's just something else that we have on this crazy station of so many different hosts that we juggle.
It's so wild. So, and not just internet radio station, and not just, kind of that, but you guys also sponsor shows as well. Do you have any hand in any of that? Like kind of...
Not really. Like Josh will ask sometimes. It really depends. I mean, XPN gets presents on concerts, and Radio 104.5 does, and it'll just be something random. Like I said earlier, like we're friends with the singer from Electric Six, and Electric Six played City Winery a couple of weeks ago, and we got to be the presents on that. So it just varies. Depends on the show. If we're trying to do stuff, we've done over the years, we've tried to do like our anniversary shows in the summer. It's just more a matter of like, I don't think we've ever really booked one ourselves, more so than it was like, oh, this band's coming to town in July. Can we like make that our anniversary show and try and make it work? And then maybe we like got like a local opener for it or something like that. So we've done that over the years, depending on the situation and depending on the show. And
yeah. So, let me kind of, this is kind of like the Philly question as well. Who are you playing right now that like you're all about? Like, what do you guys got, that kind of excites you right now?
Like not just local wise or overall?
Overall. Yeah.
Overall. Okay. The next big thing is The Last Dinner Party.
Yes.
Who are 5 or 6 young women from England who have sort of a very like retro aesthetic, like flowy dresses, but they're also kind of like a gothy alternative pop band. They're going to be like the new Wet Leg probably. So we were playing their song Nothing Matters, and we just started. They have enough songs out now. They announced their album. They have enough new songs out that we're playing them in like a heavier rotation because we want to get ahead of the curve. Like we were ahead of the curve on Wet Leg. Like you were hearing Chaise Long on mainstream alternative stations a year after we were done with it, kind of.
Yeah.
We played a lot of that album.
That's another one of the most awesome things I feel about not just Why Not, but like all the way back to Y100 is like you guys kind of are on the ground floor of experiencing new music. What's your approach to finding new songs to get into and to kind of get behind?
I mean, it's a mix of like, there's labels and promotional companies and stuff that send things out, and reading blogs and just what we like. Like a lot of it's just, if there's something that we really like and want to get behind, that we will push it. Like, or we have, the way we have a rotation, we have like certain albums that we have in the heaviest rotation. We put the whole album, we have put like multiple songs from the album. It's not just the single. So sometimes it's like, man, we've been playing this album. We've been playing the National for like 6 months now. Somebody else needs to come up with an album that's like worthy of putting in the A slot. Do you want to take a chance on Blonde Shell? Yeah, I like the Blonde Shell album. Let's like focus on her for like 4 or 5 months in the heavy rotation.
Yeah. What are those conversations like? Do you guys have like a Slack? What do you
Josh and I do, we figure it out over GChat pretty much I'm on my regular show is on Thursdays, like after my day job is over, and Josh and I'll figure it all out pretty much over GChat.
Okay. Yeah. See, I have this other thing where my Clark Kent day job is I work in operations. So I always kind of like talking when I'm talking to somebody in an organization or a part of an organization to kind of know like how do you guys communicate? Because we struggle.
Yeah, there's a lot of best of new stuff coming out next year. That's just going to be like the first half of, because I'm looking at the year-end poll Google Doc in front of me now, and some years the most anticipated of next year category is stuff that you might have read in an interview, like, oh, somebody said they're going to put out a new album next year. Sure, they're going to have a new album, but already next year we know that in like the first quarter we're getting Sleater-Kinney and Mannequin Pussy and The Last Dinner Party, like I said, and Laura Jane Grace, Lauren Mayberry, The Vaccines, Idols.
I am so excited for this Idols album.
The Smile.
Don't even know. Oh yeah, I just heard the new single. Like that is like like I can't believe. Like here's the deal. I'm a big Radiohead fan.
Me too.
When they have guitars. And so there, like when I first started hearing the stuff from The Smile, I was like, oh, holy shit. Why couldn't this just be a Radiohead album? What are you guys doing? But now I don't care, because if you're going to keep making awesome music like this, then I don't care what you name it. Just put it out.
Were you at either of the Wells Fargo shows, the Radiohead shows?
I was not. No. Okay. I still that's still a bucket list. I still have not broken my Radiohead show cherry.
Oh.
I know.
Well, the thing is, like my friend Christine, aka Electra, and I talk about this sometimes because she came with me to the last show. I went to both nights, and the last show, that's the last show Radiohead has played, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that they never play again. And there's really a chance that we went to the last Radiohead show and that it was in Philadelphia.
That's insane. I didn't realize that the last show date was the Philly date. Oh man. See, it's cool. I'll just continue to kick myself for the rest of my life if that pans out the way you so predict. But speaking of next year though, do you have anything like? Are you coming up on an anniversary? I feel like, isn't there like, or did you just have one?
What type of anniversary?
Like 15, isn't it? Or
Why Not's anniversary?
Yeah.
We started in 2010, so it's easy to remember that it was 13.
Oh, okay. So
not a multiple of 5.
Okay, there we go. So not next year, the year after.
Yeah.
I know it's far down the line, but are you guys thinking about anything to kind of?
Not yet. When we hit 10 years, that was 2010. That was the summer of 2010. That was the worst of the pandemic things. And Josh and I embarked on a 1,000-song countdown that summer that we recorded in parts, like over the course of days of like the past decade or so, from like. Yeah, from the beginning of Why Not Radio. And that was ambitious of us.
That's wild. Well, everybody was at home, so it was a good time to do it. So I know that the pandemic affected listenership of terrestrial radio stations, specifically because of the lack of drive time, and I don't know that things have recovered. What with you don't have to get into too many specifics, but did it affect the why not listens on internet radio? Or
I honestly don't know, because I don't get the numbers and get behind the hood of that kind of stuff. I don't have access to it. I hope it did. I hope more people listened to us when they were, working from home more often. But yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I know that that's primarily when I started listening more. And it's also when I started listening to the stream version of WXPN more, because I'm just now at a computer, and stuff like that. So like it's just a matter of convenience. But but the idea of like an internet radio station to me seems like a no brainer with how streaming is kind of going now, because there's so much content, and it's so hard to kind of find something that you like. So like to have something like Why Not that is a curator and a tasteful curator of music, to be able to discover the Last Dinner Party and acts like that is so incredibly beneficial, and we're absolutely lucky to have you guys in this area.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I don't use Spotify I don't pay for Spotify, but I don't use it that much. I use it for like albums, or just like something like I don't have an album handy, or I don't have it yet, or whatever. But I'm not somebody who like discovers music through it or goes through their like new music playlists. And there's so much, like, not only is there so much behind the scenes, I'm sure, like label jockeying for position and money and all that kind of stuff going on, but it's also, there's no people involved and it's just, there's more and more automation and more like, don't get me started on AI and
yes.
But then we're just, a couple of music nerds that love what we do and love talking about it and love being like, here, look at this, listen to this. That's my thing. I've always been like somebody who just wants to I pass it on, as I say, to quote a song. Like, here's a cool thing. I've always been like that. I've always just been somebody who wants to like know what somebody likes and is like, here, check this out. Like going back to, I don't know, like high school or whatever. Like my friend Mike, who was a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. I might have been like, hey, Mike, look, did you see this article about Becca Bramlett? I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to make some really deep cut Fleetwood Mac references.
I was just going to say, God damn. So not just the station, but am I correct that you also write kind of music articles as well? Did I see that on the internet, or did I make that up?
I mean, my old day job was in music, radio, trade publication stuff. I don't work there anymore.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I write a lot of the reviews on our website, and I've written other stuff. Going back to Y100, one of the other things I'm really proud of that I did there is that Jim and Dan asked me to write the bios for the programs for the festival and Feastival for the last couple of years.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I wrote them from, I don't know, 02, 03, maybe 03, 04, 05, somewhere around there. I have a whole bunch of them upstairs in a box.
Was that also an interest at all, writing or music criticism at all? Or
yeah, I mean, I always wrote. I mean, I worked for my school newspaper in college. I was the entertainment editor by the end there. Yeah, we just wrote about, we did whatever we wanted. I wrote album reviews for that, and I was music director at the college radio station and the entertainment editor for the school newspaper. So I was busy, but that was all the stuff I loved doing. And it was me and a couple of friends. It's always been like working with friends, like my fellow, like my roommate in college, my senior year was the school paper. He wasn't editor in chief, or he was like second to that. I don't know. My friend Stan wrote recaps of Raw every week. It was a whole thing.
It's awesome.
Whole nerd thing.
I just had a conversation with someone this week that, like, the Yo That's My Jawn brand, or the website itself, was originally going to be a music blog, except for I was going to start it in 2019, and everybody was like, music blogs are dead. What are you doing? Why are you wasting your time? And that's kind of why it kind of morphed into the podcast or whatnot. But I'm like, in the back of my head, like I feel like it's prime real estate right now for music blogs to come back, because like I miss music publications. I really do. And I miss like, not like the big guys, you know, like I it's not like I'm like, boy, Rolling Stone's not what it used to be, because like it never was what it was when I was reading it. And like, I just feel like it's prime to bring back the music blog. So we'll see what happens.
Bring back zines, do you remember Origivation? Was that what it was called?
Yes. Oh my God. As a matter of fact, here's a funny story. My buddy, a very good, one of my best friends, Scott Miller, all right, is a drummer. He's a drummer in this band called Tribe of Names. They're incredible. I'm not sure if you're a prog guy, but they're really, really good. Really good prog band. But he was in this band maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, called Stone Jack Ballers. Okay. And they were a Philly band, pretty heavy, kind of like, I would say like maybe like a Tool light. But anyway, really good band. And their first album got reviewed by Origivation, and it shredded them and said that it sounded like they made music that sounded like it should be in a John Hughes film. And I kept telling him that's not an insult. Like, I understand you guys are taking that as an insult, but like, I would dream to be in a band that would be in a John Hughes film. But yeah, Origivation wrote that, and I haven't thought about that until you just named it, and it just clicked in my head. Like, that's hilarious. But you should check out Tribe of Names. They're really good, and I'm not just saying that because Scott's my best friend. But at this time, do you want to go through the Jauntlet? This is my questionnaire that I ask every guest who makes their way through this. It starts with the one-hit wonders, which is in name only, and obviously. But the first one, Billy Joel or Elton John? Who do you prefer?
You sent me the questions, and I remembered them from listening to previous episodes of your show. So I had one of them mixed up, but I'll get there. Okay. I think I like more Billy Joel songs, but I like Elton more as a person.
Okay, that's definitely fair.
His charity work and his blunt honesty and his love of music and his induction for Bernie Taupin in the Rock Hall of Fame was really sweet. So
yeah,
I'll give it to Reg Dwight. Also, that's one of my favorite one-off throwaway Simpsons jokes is when he was on there and he meets Apu. Elton John, that's my name. Well, not really.
Yeah.
And that's the joke.
Just a brilliant show of cameos. Like, but here's something crazy. Have you watched any of the shorts that they've done that are essentially extended music videos on Disney Plus?
I don't. Wait, the Simpson ones?
Yeah,
I think they're all bad. I'm a Simpsons super fan, and I'm OCD about it. I've seen every episode, so I like feel compelled to watch them. But they're all just like. There's no joke there. There's just like, hey, look, it's some IP that Disney owns and Maggie's in it. The end.
Well, the one that blew my mind was, and I don't know if you saw it, but it's Andreas Bocelli and his family. And it's just the most bizarre. Like, I don't understand why any of it exists, but it does. And for that one specific one, I'm kind of charmed by it.
That came from talking about Elton or Billy. See, Billy Joel, there's also, I think of Billy Joel, I think of a lot of Simpsons references too, because Uptown Girl was Homer's hippie anthem, for example.
His hippie anthem was marching through the streets.
Yes.
Uptown Girl. Yes. I love it. Do you have a favorite Simpsons side character?
I'll say Sideshow Bob.
Okay.
I was actually last year, early this year. Well, we recorded it last year on Christmas. I was on a podcast. It's called it's Fave 5 for Fans. I don't want to get the show wrong. Where I talked about my favorite Simpsons episodes. Fave 5 from fans. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I was on a podcast almost exactly a year ago, talking about my favorite Simpsons episodes. So
that's wild. My favorite side character is Disco Stew. And
I think he's my cousin Chris's favorite too.
Really? I get like, yes, Disco Stew doesn't advertise. My favorite thing in the world, I can't believe I'm getting off on a Simpsons tangent here, but when Disco Stew shows the rise in disco between the years 77 and 81 or whatever it is, and it's just an absolutely brilliant throwaway line, and I get ridiculously happy whenever I even just see him in the background of an episode. The next one of the one-hit wonders, back on track. Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Oh, Debbie Harry, no question. I love Blondie. I think Blondie are such an important band. Not just like so many of my favorite bands, I feel like have taken not the template isn't that like attractive female singer with a bunch of dudes in the band, like Garbage and Metric and No Doubt and so many others. It's that and being able to genre hop and sound like yourselves and do so many different things. And Blondie, you know, I mean, Dreaming's one of my favorite songs of all time, but, you know, they did hip hop and they did reggae and they did a French pop music and they did punk and they did it all. And Debbie Harry, like, I heard a solo song from Debbie Harry and it was like, this would be corny, but Debbie Harry like can make anything cool. Otherwise, in other people's hands, this would be super corny, but it's Debbie Harry, so it's super cool.
Definitely agree. You know, and like, also that period of time, the late 70s, early 80s New York is like, I think just, you know, what people talk about, like the jazz age is what that era of New York represents to me, because like, I think about like just punk and hip hop and the art and just everything that was coming out of New York at that time. And it just feels to me unmatched. And maybe I'm glorifying something that I didn't truly experience myself, but I don't care. It's awesome.
I'm really glad I went to CBGB's. I didn't see a band there, but only once I got to go to CMJ for college radio. And my friends and I went to like maybe like a Spin magazine party at CBGB's. I just remember going there and getting like a free slice of very gooey pizza. But I can say I was actually in the building and actually went there.
Awesome.
I have a picture
That's
in
cool.
front of it.
That's super cool. Number 3, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
Neither of them really mean that much to me, to be honest. Like, I guess Tina Turner, R.I.P. this year.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
I'm going to say Pearl Jam because there's more of Pearl Jam. I mean, I love Nirvana. They have like a pretty perfect catalog, but I've seen Pearl Jam many times. They have so much great music, so many great songs. I was just listening to their Lost Dogs Rarities collection turned 20 years old.
Oh,
so I went back and listened to it, and there's so much good stuff on that.
There really is.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would say my wife and I went to Seattle a couple years ago, and the Mopop Museum they have the Nirvana exhibit and the Pearl Jam exhibit. And the Pearl Jam exhibit was just so incredible. They have so much like stuff. They had a chair from the Spectrum there, from the Spectrum shows.
That's incredible. That's one of my. We'll get to favorite concerts later, but that's one of my favorite shows I've ever been to.
I saw them there in like man, what album was that on? It was the first time I saw Pearl Jam was at the Spectrum, and that was like 2001, 2002 ish. And then I saw them one of the run, the goodbye run at the Spectrum. I was at one of those shows, whichever one. It was at the same time the Phillies were playing the Yankees. I remember that.
Yeah, I was at the second to last one, and it was just like, it was incredible. Like not just the emotion of closing out the Spectrum, but like the set they put together was just like song after song of just incredible work.
Yeah, I've seen Pearl Jam. So I saw them in Camden. I saw them at the Made in America Festival. Just, always incredible.
That's awesome. Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Definitely Miss Stephanie Nicks. I mean, like it's funny. I referenced my friend Mike from high school, but he was he was a good friend of mine and a big music listener and influence. We used to like hang out and listen to records, and he was a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. So I know like the history of the Mac and their insane backstory and the blues records and the random members that were in the band in the 80s and all the lore and mythology of Fleetwood Mac. I had it in my head before you sent me the list of questions I had from previous episodes. I'm like, I think his question is Aretha Franklin or or Janis Joplin, because I was going to give a smart ass answer and say Jackie Jormp Jomp from 30 Rock.
For 30 Rock. That's awesome. See, you're good for good pools. I like that. I like that a lot. Excuse me.
I didn't expect you to top you with Jackie Drum Chomp. It has my wife's favorite 30 Rock joke, which is since they couldn't use, it was an unlicensed Janis Joplin parody, or a biopic, and starring Jenna. So the song was synonyms, just another word for the word you want to use.
It's just brilliant writing on that show. Brilliant. The big cliche, though, very timely. Beatles or the Stones?
Oh, those new young bands, up and coming bands. This question is posed in one of my favorite songs of all time, "Give Me Sympathy" by Metric. And totally. I grew up in a Beatles. My mom was a Beatles fan growing up. She loved George as a kid, and totally Beatles all the way. The Stones just aren't my vibe. I mean, I like the Stones, but they weren't my vibe. Beatles catalog inside and out. I remember my wife and I bought Beatles Rock Band and just were amazed by the animation in it alone. Let's just watch the opening credits again of Beatles Rock Band.
That's awesome. Now and Then, thoughts? Did you enjoy it, or?
It's fine. It's kind of unnecessary. I'm glad they had to explain, after Paul used the dreaded term AI, they had to kind of walk it back and be like, no, these are really John's vocals. It's just production capabilities that didn't exist when we made Anthology. They had to explain that, but it's just a pithier headline out there to be like, AI Beatles song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice.
I was surprisingly moved by it because I am a very cynical person. And when that initial report came out, I admit that I probably said some very mean things about Paul McCartney. But when the 12-minute film came out, I was moved to tears when they separated John's vocals from the piano. I was just dumbfounded. And then when I actually heard the song, I was overwhelmed as well. And that isn't a reflection on the song being good or necessary, but it was just as a technological breakthrough and the ability to kind of recreate something that shouldn't exist or couldn't have existed prior to the technology. I'm all for it, but will I be listening to it a lot? No. No, but I'll tell you what, I still love "Free as a Bird," and that's just as chemically man-made as this one was. So
I didn't like the video, though, the actual music video. No. That was kind of weird. That was why are you doing this, Peter Jackson?
As a matter of fact, I docked 2 points off of the song because of the music video, because especially the shots that they used of John dancing shucking around. Yeah. I was like, what are you doing?
Where did that come from?
Yeah. I'm all that footage you got of this guy and that's the one you use? Come on, man. It was very weird. Very weird. The last one of the one-hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
I'm going to say Bohemian Rhapsody. I think I'm partly cribbing this from when Dave Hawes was on here, and he said he was just he'd heard too much Zeppelin on classic rock radio in his lifetime. And I kind of agree with that too. Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, you hear Queen. I don't know if there's been a time in the last 5 years where a Queen song hasn't been licensed in a commercial that's running somewhere at some time.
It's so true. I'll tell you what, and because I'm, everybody calls me a contrarian, and that's not what it is, or they say that I'm just selectively picking things to be difficult. Also not what it is. But if you listen to those last two Queen albums, there's a lot of really good songs on there. And I think they were actually doing some of their best work, and you never hear any of that stuff.
Bohemian Rhapsody also gets a few extra points for Weird Al's Bohemian Polka. So
yes. I don't know if I mentioned it ever on this podcast, but last year Al shared my wife and I. We were Al and Madonna for Halloween, and he shared our photo, and that was a life goal of mine because much like yourself, Weird Al was my entry to life and everything. Like that man means so much to me, and very envious that you got to interview him, regardless of John Kay or Robert Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, if you dress up as Al for Halloween and put it on the internet, he will find it and share it in a very large grid on Instagram.
Well, that was the crazy thing, was that like I didn't even know that would have even seen it anywhere, and we still to this day don't know like how it ended up that way. But like someone like sent it to me, and they were like, "Did you see Al shared your photo?" And I was like, "What?" And then I looked, and I was like, "Oh, holy crap!" Like it was unbelievable.
He lurks on the internet a lot more than I think people would realize or think about.
I don't doubt that. The next section is the top 10 countdown. Now, of course, being from the area, you know that Jawn can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be music. But number one, what was your first, Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with when you were a kid?
I'm going to say E.T., the extraterrestrial, the first movie I ever saw in the theater. I was like I was really, really little, obviously, when it came out. I think I'm like a year or two younger than you. So yeah, E.T. was 82, and I remember being all about it when I was really little. Before Star Wars, before, a couple years before Ghostbusters. But yeah, I'm going to say Spielberg's E.T.
It's not down here, I don't think. I have this stuffed ET that I still have from 82. And the story about it is my aunt got one and I loved it. And I was so jealous of it. And she was like, I don't know, maybe Christmas. And then like I went over her house for Christmas, unwrapped a bunch of presents, and none of it was there. And I was like, And then she was like, what's that behind the sofa? And I like looked around and there was that ET. And I still own it because I very much love that thing. It's my little ET note there. Number two, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
My wife and I have been watching that show Beef on Netflix. I think it came out like 6 months ago. It's Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong. They have a minor like road rage near fender bender incident in a parking lot, and their characters and lives just interact and crisscross. And it gets pretty outlandish. It kind of reminded us both, we realized at times, of Breaking Bad, and that like these small decisions and then like these secondary characters, small decisions about money, it's just a domino effect and it snowballs and everything like crisscrosses and makes everyone's lives worse. And on top of that, it has a lot of 90s and 2000s alternative jams as the soundtrack to it for good measure. So we're like, I think we have 4 episodes left as of now. But yeah, I mean, it's got, there's a scene that was online a bunch. Stephen Yeun's character picks up a guitar and plays Drive by Incubus in one episode. But like Cornflake Girl is in it. The Reason by Hoobastank is in the first episode. There was like a pretty deep cut from System of a Down I did not expect to hear. Okay. Morphine was in one episode. So
that was in the list of shows that my wife and I have wanted to watch, and I'm going to have to move it up the list. Those are all very in line with what I want out of a show. So, so we'll have to move that one up. Number 3, what was your first concert? What was the first live show you saw?
Not counting like local bands, like friends, like punk bands. Let's say, I always say it's Weird Al at the Valley Forge Music Fair in 1996. That's
awesome. You know, I had never seen him live until a year ago, 2 years ago, on the tour of him.
The Self-Indulgent tour?
Yes. Oh. And it blew me away twofold. One, how many of those songs I absolutely love and are some of my favorites. But two, just reiterates how incredibly talented the band is. Like it's unbelievable. If I were, it's a thing later, but they're definitely an unappreciated Jawn as and an underrated group of musicians, Al included.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen Al numerous. That was the first time, and I saw him, at the Man and at the Keswick and at the Tower, and yeah. But I went to Harrisburg to see Lancaster. I'm sorry, Lancaster to see the Self-Indulgent tour though, because it didn't come to Philly in the first run of it. I think it worked out better, so we saw in Lancaster. The Met, yeah. Camden, Atlantic City.
Wow,
a lot of times. But yeah, Valley Forge Music Fair. I had a friend in high school whose parents were members there. Did you ever go there growing up?
No.
It was in like Devon. Technically, there's a what's over there now? The Barnes and Noble, I guess, is what's there now. And there was a Denny's for a long time. But this is very hyper specific. But the Valley Forge Music Fair was a venue that was in the round, and like Kenny Rogers would do his Christmas show every there. And I think I saw the Nutcracker there when I was in 3rd grade or something. But it was in the round, and the stage rotated. And because my old friend John's parents were members, we had front row seats for Al.
Oh my God.
At the Valley Forge Music Fair when we were in high school. So yeah.
That's wild. And that was your first show. Like, how do you ever go see another show ever again? That's amazing. What I was going to say was, when I was in high school, they did those lip sync contests all the time. And my friends and we did I Lost on Jeopardy as a lip sync. And if I ever find it, I'll put it up on YouTube for everyone.
If you want people to see that.
Yeah. It's great. It's really great. I actually just found the year after that we did Jimmy Olsen's Blues by the Spin Doctors. And I've been threatening to upload that, but everybody's begging me not to. So number 4, what was the last show you went to? Last concert?
Well, the last couple years, I've been very, very, very COVID safe, like live event safe. Like only in this past year or so have I was going, for like a decade or so, I'd go to, 1 to 3 concerts a month. And as of March of 2020, I just stopped. And like last year, I went to 1 show last year because Josh was able to get, there's those VIP balconies at the Fillmore.
Yes.
So he was able to get tickets up there for Metric. So it was just me and him and his partner and like 2 other people where we were sitting. So after that, I've only gone to like a handful of shows. So I did go to see Be Your Own Pet at Underground Arts a couple weeks back. Be Your Own Pet were this super fun, like really young, bratty garage pop band from mid-late aughts who were really just they kind of flamed out. They were like all like college age and just super energetic and like just, a hyperactive band that was going to burn out. And then their singer is married to Jack White's business partner. And Jack got them to get back together to, I think, open for him a couple years ago. And so they reunited and they put out a really great comeback album this year called Mommy that I loved. And I was like, I only saw them once ever back in there. I saw them at South by Southwest do a set where they, the generator, it was an outdoor show and the generator died during their set. So I don't remember if they actually finished. So I was like, I think it's going to be like, it's on a Sunday. There might be a smaller crowd. It's at Underground Arts. So I saw Be Your Own Pet and they were a blast. They were so much fun. They rocked. They covered Girl You Want by Devo and Neat 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 by The Damned. And they were great. So I'm glad because it was like, that was, I'm like, I think I'm going to do that, but I'm really, really safe and picky and one of like a few people wearing a mask at a show, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was that album was fantastic. That was definitely one of my favorite releases this year. Number 5, what was your favorite concert? Best live show you ever saw?
Oh, it was most definitely REM at the Mann Center with Modest Mouse and the National. Were you there?
I was not. Yeah, that's another one that I missed.
So yeah, REM, I think I don't even know if I officially said it on here, but yeah, they're my favorite band of all time. They're my favorite, like one of my favorite everythings, one of my favorite Jawns. That's my area of expertise. And I was in the fan club, so I always was able to get good seats every time I saw them. And we were in the Man in the front row again at the Man, like, in front of the pit area. And it was me and my friend Dan, and that show was incredible. That was, that was their last tour. Like no one knew it at the time. That was the tour for the Accelerate album. That was their last tour. They broke up a couple years later. And that was when they were just playing. They went back and played things from the 80s. They hadn't played in years. because Accelerate was the album where they were like, okay, let's go back and like try and recapture the energy of the 80s records, but with like late aughts production value pretty much. And did like a full on like heavy guitar rock record, loud guitar rock record, fast guitar rock record, let's say. But yeah, they were incredible. I missed the National that night for convoluted reasons, but Modest Mouse, love Modest Mouse, got to see them. And then yeah, the REM set list tonight was great. I have a bootleg of it. John Batiste had a photo pass, so I have like he sent me his pictures from it too.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the Johnny Marr. One Eddie Vedder was there because Pearl Jam were coming through town like a night or two later, so he came to the show and came out and did Begin to Begin with REM, and that was when Johnny Marr was in Modest Mouse, and he came out on the encores every night and played as like third guitar on Man on the Moon and I think Fall on Me.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense why that would be your favorite concert. 3 quick REM points. One, I'm going to go back to lip sync again. We recorded a lip sync video in my television communications class in high school to Pop Song 89, and we were all shirtless.
I was going to say, did you do that?
Yep, we did the video. 2, have you, I'm going to bridge one of your favorite things and one of my favorite things. Have you heard Mickey Dolenz' REM cover?
Oh, I love it. I was so blown. Mickey's my favorite monkey. And I mean, they've always been fans. Like going back to the beginning of the day, the REM covered the Monkees before they had any originals. And like, they were blown away. Like if you see the pictures of the Wuxtree Records signing and all that. And I listened to just the other day, Stipe is on that, Smartless podcast, which I'd never listened to.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I never
listened to an episode where he's on it, and you can hear him like he's like, Mickey effing Dolenz is coming to Athens, Georgia, and he covered my songs. Like he's blown away by it.
Someone I know does runs like kind of Mickey's fan signings and stuff like that all, and shared a bunch of photos of Mickey hanging out with the band, and it's just you can see the joy in Michael Stipe's face, like a smile you don't see on Michael Stipe's face. But my third thing was what's the Scott McKay band baseball party?
Baseball Project. I saw their show this summer too.
That's what I was just going to ask. Like, did you?
I interviewed Scott. I've interviewed Scott a few times over the years, like for the -5 and for the Baseball Project, and he's such a nice guy. He's so great. And so I reached out to the Baseball Project, had a new album out, and I reached out to I found like a contact on their Twitter actually, and connected with Scott. And we did an interview, and then I was like, I'm really picky about shows. I'm coming to your show. I saw them afterwards. I saw Scott, and he's like, yeah, thanks so much for coming. Scott's the nicest guy. Like, a side note again, you can edit this.
No, I'm not going to. It's all going out.
Filthy Friends is another side project. Peter Buck and Scott's in it, and Corin Tucker of Sleater-Kinney is the singer. And they put out 2 records, and I reached out to their record label because they're on Kill Rock Stars, they're on a pretty small label. And I reached out one time, I'm like, can we get an interview when they're in Philly? And yeah, so my friend Rob, who does our electronic show Transmission, Rob and I interviewed Corin Tucker and Peter Buck backstage at Johnny Brenda's, and it was the most low key like hang. They were super friendly. The opener was sound checking while we were doing an interview. So like, do you want to just pause this? Okay. So like we just chatted with Peter off the mic for a while, just hung and talked. And I saw Scott there, and he remembered me from over the years. And I saw him like the -5 came back like a few months later, like almost the entire same lineup as Filthy Friends, only it was a -5 show, and Mills was in the band. And I saw Scott, and he was like, thanks so much for coming to the show. Like he was really like genuine. So
that's so
nothing
awesome.
but great things to say about Scott McCoy.
That's I'm glad to hear that. Like I like to hear that people I like are not dicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's so the post REM era where like Peter and Mills and Scott just play wherever they want, and they come, over the past decade or so, like I've seen them in various capacities with the -5 or the Baseball Project or why am I blanking on Robin Hitchcock's name? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead.
Let's go with the actual lineup of Talking Heads.
Yes.
I saw Tom Tom Club at Non-Com once. seen David Byrne a bunch of times. But we just saw Stop Making Sense in IMAX, so it's the easy answer right now.
So technically, I've seen the Talking Heads.
I saw you post that.
Yeah, it was two.
So why did they play at the Philadelphia Zoo?
I don't. I think MMR set it up. I think, but I was laughing because again, Bruce. It comes back to Bruce. Bruce was there, and I think he said he was like 19 or something like that. I was like, I was there. I was too. But yeah, how crazy is that they played the Philadelphia Zoo of all places? Like, it's incredible.
That should have been a question when they did those like handful of interviews together. Colbert shouldn't have like been like, why don't you get back together and play some songs, guys? He should have been like, why did you play the Philadelphia Zoo?
Why were you at the Philadelphia
Zoo? We're not going to
play
play any songs together. Don't poke the bear.
Yeah, it's so true. Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn. Something you wish you had more attention to it.
I'm gonna say like some of those bands we were talking about earlier, some of those like smaller indie rock bands, like Screaming Females and Speedy Ortiz, and some of those caliber of artists we play here on Why Not.
Yeah,
Alex Leahy, super talented musician.
The did you hear the song that Alex Leahy did with Ben Lee?
I think so.
I forget what the name. Ben Lee put out a 2-song release. I want to say it was like songs from when I was 19 or something like that. But Alex Leahy's on one of them, and it's just an incredible song.
Yeah, she's another artist we've championed from this, like her first EP. She did a session with us, like an acoustic session with us, when all she had was her first EP out. And now she's done like 3 different things with us over the years. So we're huge fans of hers.
That's awesome. When you guys do sessions, where do you cut them at? Is that?
It's varied over the years, and obviously now it's even weirder. But like, there's a couple studios that would like host them for us over the years. Why am I blanking on all their names now? Cambridge Sound Studios.
Okay.
Has done a bunch of them. We did one with Speedy Ortiz there this summer. Actually, they did one with Screaming Female. Lady Hawk was there one time. I'm going to blank on some of them, and they've come and gone over the years. So Josh has like relationships with different local studios that are like, hey, can you help us out and host this? A lot of times they've just come to like, they came to Josh's place over the years and recorded there, and we'd set up, a couple of guitars or whatever we could there. And in the past 3.5 years, some bands have done them remotely. Some of them have done them over Zoom. We have one going up that's up now. Well, when this podcast is up, it'll already up.
Yeah.
But Sam Roberts' band from Canada aren't coming to America anytime soon. And Sam's done a bunch of interviews over the years with Josh, and he and his guitarist just set up in Sam's home studio and did a couple songs on 2 guitars and sent us the audio and video of it. So some fans have done stuff remotely.
That's so cool.
Especially like early pandemic. A lot of bands like Mondo Cosmo, Josh Ostrander did some stuff for us from home. So
super cool. I like that a lot. Number 8, what's your favorite album?
It's REM's New Adventures in Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
It came out when I was a freshman in college. And when your favorite band puts out an album, your freshman year of college, it kind of sticks with you. But it is my favorite album.
It really is, from like start to finish, just a perfect album. It's so good. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they put out.
See, I'm such a completionist that it's weird for me not to totally drop someone. Even, I'm not just gonna name like REM, like They Might Be Giants have a bazillion songs, but I listen to all of them. I have all of them pretty more or less, I think. But like, even, like the last decade of Wilco have gotten very, very samey, but I'm not going to not listen to Cousin like 4 or 5 times and have an opinion of it. And there's still like a handful of songs I like on it, but everything Tweety's done over the last decade is kind of becomes a blur. I like it, but it's just gotten really samey, but I'm not going to like not listen to it.
It's really funny you say that, because Wilco is my answer to this question. I kind of created it thinking about them, because originally, all right, so like this show, I try to be super positive, all right? Mm-hmm. But the way I originally worded this question, and I don't know that I've asked anyone in its initial form, was artists whose output you'll consume anything they put out, even if you have to apologize for some of it. But like, we just saw Jeff at the Atlantis Club in DC doing one of the acoustic shows. And like, there were points where he was playing some of the newer stuff where I was like, I know I've listened to these albums and I have no idea what this song is like, but the word samey is so perfect to kind of describe it, that like it was like a moment of like, wait, I can't tell if this is from the Tweety album, from his solo album, or from
Rural Country.
Yeah, or what was the one that's got the Harry Nilsson reference, Wilco Schmilko.
Oh yeah,
Schmilko. I don't. Why can't I? Come on, it's right there. But yes, that's my answer to the question. And one of my favorite shows I saw last year was I saw the when Nels Cline and John Stewart and Pat Sansone played at Ardmore last year, and Yuka Honda was the opener, and it was just an awesome show. I could geek out about Wilco for the rest of my life.
One of the interviews I'm really glad I got to do at XPN was Jay Bennett, actually.
No way.
Jay was on a solo tour, and a buddy of mine, he was on a label that a buddy of mine was the promotion guy for, and when I was at XPN back then, Jay came by on like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and played a song live, and we did an interview and recorded it, and I have a picture with him. And yeah,
that's incredible. Did you see Where Are You, Jay Bennett? Have you watched that documentary?
I know there's a documentary. I didn't see that.
It's really good. I feel like it's like a good companion piece to the Wilco documentary, because it's kind of like the other side. But like one of the main takeaways from it is like those two guys together created some of my favorite music of all time, but also it's probably better that they went their separate ways, you know. Even with as tragic as how, you know, it ended up for Jay. But yeah, I love those guys. Number 10, what's your favorite Jawn of all time? Can be anything you want it to be.
I mean, I've referenced REM a whole bunch already. We've talked about Weird Al, but I'm just going to say it's The Simpsons.
Yeah. You being a completist, you're still watching, right? The show. Do you agree with me that like, even though these later seasons are, you know, kind of a chore to get through at times, that they'll have like one or two episodes each year that are just like, where's this writing coming from? Like,
absolutely. They're always like two or three really lovely. They're either really sweet because it goes back to being like a family show, or they're really funny and they come upon a really clever idea. But man, Julie Kavner hasn't sounded good in a couple of years.
No.
Harry Shearer, when he does Burns now, sounds really, really weak. And I like some episodes, I'm like, stop making Julie Kavner sing or yell or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll never stop The Simpsons. Have no fears. They got stories for years, but yeah, it's more like I worry about the cast than the writing at this point.
Absolutely. You know, there was an episode, I forget the name of it, but I think it was last season, that was a play or a spoof on Naked and Afraid. That was that was a good one. It was really good, and like I try to tell people about it, but the one that blew my mind as a Simpsons fan is last year's Treehouse of Horrors, where they did the Westworld thing, that had so many deep references in it that like my head wanted to explode, like including one of my favorite things on the show. It was a reference to one of my favorite things that has ever happened on the show, and that is the leprechaun that tells Ralph to you know what you have to do, Ralph? Burn them all. And when I saw the leprechaun in that, I was like, you guys win. I don't care. I don't care what you do for the rest of this season. You did it, and that was like November of last year. So. I love it. So if these folks want to check out Why Not Radio, why don't you tell them how to find it on their internet computer or phone?
We are at whynotradio.net. Yes, our website is in need of a little bit of an overhaul. It has been for a while. But you can listen to us through Live 365. You can find us through there. You can find us through iTunes. We have an app now. Like I said, you can just search the Apple, whatever the app store, I think it's just called the App Store, or the Android store, both for Why Not Radio, and you'll find our dedicated app. Everything is on demand. We have all our specialty shows, all our interviews, everything's on demand. Sometimes I say, like, I don't care if you listen to us live, you can listen to us, be a fan of the station, and listen to everything on demand, because it's all there, all our individual shows, my shows. While I'm just shamelessly plugging everything, Josh and our friend Liz and I do a show called Words with Nerds, which is a pop culture talk show we do roughly quarterly, where we talk about movies and TV shows and just ramble about like Marvel stuff. We used to do a lot of stuff at all the Comic Cons. Josh and I go to every single Comic Con for a few years and cover it through Words with Nerds. RetroCon in the suburbs, we were at every year, did a whole bunch of interviews with a bunch of different voice actors over the years at that. So Words with Nerds, I'm always trying to plug, even though we only do it like 4 or 5 times a year. Right now, ideally, if this is December, we have started our year-end poll, which is our big countdown every year. We have listeners vote on not just like to get the top 223 songs of the year. We also have, artist of the year, concert of the year, best new artist, local artist, favorite TV shows and movies. All the poll categories you can enter to win a contest. We'll have a prize that isn't up there yet. Last couple of years, we had an Apple TV Plus, an Apple TV device and subscription as our grand prize. So I don't know if we have that yet this year, but I will by the time you hear this. So that's going now. So vote for that. And listen to us on Why Not Radio. You can find us all there. And if you like the bands that we've been talking about for the last hour and a half, or you want to hear me make more Simpsons and pro wrestling references, that's where to find me.
That's awesome. So real quick, you mentioning the wrestling. Have you? Oh,
now we're going to talk for another 2 hours.
Yeah. Have you been able to have a wrestling conversation with Billy Corgan? Because I feel like you need one. I feel like the station could use that. And
the thing is, the Pumpkins are Josh's favorite band of all time, and he has no interest in pro wrestling. And once I'll tell him, like, here's a stupid thing Billy did that kind of tanked the NWA's possible TV deal.
Yeah.
So
it's great.
Yeah, no, I don't need to talk to at Billy William Patrick Corgan about Phil Brooks or anything.
It's great. That's great. Joey, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for coming on. And most importantly, thank you for continuing not just the spirit of Y100, but the spirit of radio, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm so glad that you guys still exist in some capacity, bringing attention to, those mid-tier bands and stuff like that we both love. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks so much, Nate. Thanks for all the kind words. Thanks for having me on, for sure.
My many thanks again to Joey for joining me on the show today. You can find out all about Why Not Radio by visiting their webpage at whynotradio.net. You can find the Why Not Radio app available in both the Apple and Android app stores and through your smart devices of choice. The Why Not Radio year-end poll is live now, so go vote for your favorite 2023 music, TV, film, and more for an opportunity to win an Apple TV 4K with 3 months of Apple TV Plus and the chance to play your own top 20 songs of the year on Why Not Radio. Links to all of those are, of course, in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo That's My Jawn podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. And people, it is never too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for citizenship of the world just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for the link tree with links to articles, merchandise, all of the previous episodes of this podcast, guest appearances on all other pods, and more. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter X at Yo That's My Jawn and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out and touch some Jawn. Oh yeah, it is Christmas time, my friends. 'Tis the season. We have a big Christmas roundtable coming up with some former guests. My God, that's right. It's the now yearly return of the Brothers Ferris. And I hope you are ready for that much awesomeness. But for now, blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production, written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.